Good morning, aspirants. It's 20th of November today, and I welcome you all on today's edition of What to Read in the Hindu Newspaper. I'm 𝗗𝗶𝗹𝘆 𝗡𝗲, Senior Mentor at Prepp IAS. While going through the articles, we will not only see its relevance with regard to prelims and mains, but we'll also try to interlink it with other GS papers as well. I am here to align your newspaper reading as a part of our GS syllabus. So let's get started. The very first article that is there in the paper that talks about India's Russian oil cuts predate US tariffs says data. So when we map this particular article in our syllabus, this will fall under GS paper 2 under the theme international relations, wherein trade with respect to India and Russia, India, US, and energy security has been compared with. Also relevant for GS paper 3 economy, wherein energy sector and pricing has been discussed. For prelims perspective, we need to know the international trade, oil pricing mechanisms, and also the supply chains that is being there with respect to India's perspective. The key theme that has been discussed over here is India's shift in Russian crude oil imports began way before US tariff announcement, signaling market-driven, not political recalibration. For prelims perspective, we need to know the difference between Urals crude versus Brent crude, India's topmost crude suppliers, currency settlements that we do. For instance, with Russia, we do in the form of Indian ruble issues. Afterwards, for mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of strategic autonomy in energy sector, impact of geopolitical shifts on India's energy basket, balancing India, Russia, and US triangle. So this is how this particular article is to be holistically seen. The next important article, which is just on the same page, is about Supreme Court strikes down provisions of Tribunal Reform Act, tells government to set up panel. Relevant for GS paper 2, wherein separation of power, tribunals, and judicial review can be interlinked. Also, for prelims perspective, the things that we have to revise is about constitutional provisions related to tribunals, knowing about Article 323A and 323B, Finance Act of 2017, concepts such as judicial independence. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article talks about Supreme Court invalidates part of Tribunal Reform Act and directs government to form an independent panel for appointment. As this act was preaching the independence of judiciary altogether, wherein various diluting measures with regard to appointment, tenure security, and also the salaries has been kept on the hand of executive. So that is why this has been struck down. For mains perspective, we need to know about tribunalization versus judicial independence, executive overreach, and need for institutional reforms. So this is how this particular article is to be holistically seen. The next important article that is there in the paper and that catches our attention is about India will become hub of natural farming, science, traditions to lead way, says PM. So this is relevant for GS paper 3 under the theme agriculture, sustainable farming, organic farming, natural farming. For prelims perspective, the arenas that we have to revise is about 𝗶𝗏𝗏 𝗔𝐿𝐴 Yojana, zero budget natural farming, afterwards natural versus organic versus regenerative farming, knowing about FSSAI schemes, what is nutrient based subsidy, all these arenas that we have to revise while going through this particular article. And also the key theme that has been discussed over here is push towards natural farming that could be a blend of traditional versus modern sciences. For mains perspective, the primary question arises, we are pushing a lot for natural farming, but can it acquire scale in India? Also, the several challenges of natural farming with respect to productivity, market linkages, and climate smart agriculture that is needed. So this is how this particular article is to be seen. The next important article that we have in today's edition of newspaper is on editorials page, and that talks about recognize the critical role of child care worker, relevant for GS paper 2 under the theme social justice, wherein women and child development, Anganwadi system of India. Also for GS paper 1, society and gender roles has been described. The key theme that has been talked about here is Anganwadi workers' role in India's human capital, but they lack recognition, low wage, and also poor training has been equipped to them. So we need to know about, from prelims perspective, knowing about ICDS, its structure, that is Integrated Child Development Scheme, its structure, Poshan Abhiyan, Anganwadi systems, nutrition indicators, and also several data, the latest one with regard to hunger index. For mains perspective, we need to know about human capital plus early childhood care is the need of our labor rights for women in informal sector, and the key role played by work. Also, the care economy angle can also be interlinked while going through this particular article. And this is how it is to be seen holistically. The next important article is just below it, that talks about redefining the narrative of TB eradication worldwide. Relevant for GS paper 2 health, wherein communicable diseases can be quoted as a theme. Also relevant for GS paper 3 science and tech, wherein diagnostics, drug resistance could be read and revised. Afterwards, the type of TBs, for example, XDR, and what percentage of India is burdened by TB, by which year we have committed ourselves to achieve 0 cases being registered, knowing about from prelims perspective, NISHCARE scheme, DBT scheme for TB patients, the medication and vaccination that we have developed for TB. Also, the theme that has been discussed over here is TB eradication not only requires medicines and identification, but it requires a control to prevention and innovation models to eliminate it completely from the society. Then Gen Expert and sputum test, the latest type of test that has been developed in world and that needs to be adopted in India for quicker TB identification. For mains perspective, India is said to be the TB capital of world. So what all things for with regard to diagnostic funding and behavioral strategies that is needed, an awareness program that is needed to eliminate it. Also, several global best practices can be replicated in India to come to the outcome. So this is how this particular article is to be seen. The next important article is hidden cost of polluted groundwater. Relevant for GS paper 3, environment, pollution, water resources. For prelims perspective, we need to know about fluoride and several type of contaminants, which could be fluoride, nitrite, heavy metals, etc. Also, the type of groundwater pollutant that can be classified: geogenic versus anthropogenic pollution, water quality index, type of groundwater pollutant. The key theme that has been discussed over here is economic plus health burden of polluted groundwater, which is often underestimated. So we might have seen the Ganga belt is contaminated by arsenic. So what sort of diseases is being the people there living is experiencing, and what could be the possible solutions for the same? For mains perspective, the majorly the pollutant could arise from excess use of fertilizer, and one such prime epic case is nitrite and nitrate contamination. So what are the harmful effects on humans and wildlife altogether? This even creates a public health crisis and environmental justice that is needed, and governance gaps in groundwater management that is to be done. Also, Niti Aayog report with regard to groundwater pollution has been discussed. So we can even go through that particular report to quote groundwater pollution related questions and also data. The last important article for the day is about the threat of digital tradecraft in terrorism. So recently, Delhi bomb case that we have all experienced. So this is one such potential and a very important article from today's paper that needs our attention, and that talks about several emerging forms of cyber crimes. So relevant for GS paper 3, cyber security and terrorism, also relevant for GS paper 2, international relations, a cross-border digital network. For prelims perspective, we need to revise the concepts such as dark web, encrypted apps, deep fake misuse, basics of encryption, cyber laws such as CERNT, and also digital evidences that can be collected and put forward in our courts as an evidence. For mains perspective, the arenas that we have to revise is new age terrorism, tech security interface, need for global cooperation. So this is how this particular article is to be seen. This is all from my end for today's Hindu newspaper. Till we meet for the next time, take care and goodbye. And don't forget to not only read the articles, but also try mapping it with other aspects of our syllabus as well.